All right, we're now in Unit 4, which is quadrilaterals. And quadrilaterals are four-sided shapes. But there's quite a few special quadrilaterals that we're going to talk about. And most of them are categorized based on their sides. So one of the quadrilaterals we're going to talk about is called the parallelogram. And that's where both pairs of opposite sides are going to be parallel to each other. The next quadrilateral comes from the parallelogram, and that's going to be a rhombus. And a rhombus has four congruent sides. So it's a parallelogram with four congruent sides. The next parallelogram we'll talk about is going to be a rectangle, and a rectangle has four right angles. The last parallelogram we'll talk about is a square, and a square is going to have four right angles and four congruent sides. So it takes the properties of the rhombus, and it takes the properties of the rectangle, and it becomes a square. We'll see these four in a diagram in a second, which might make more sense to you. If we have no parallel sides, but we have two pairs of adjacent sides, and again, adjacent means next to, so in this diagram we see the two sides that are next to each other are congruent, and these two sides are next to each other and are congruent. This is going to be a kite. The last thing is if we have one pair of parallel sides, this is called the trapezoid. And we have two special trapezoids. One is going to be called an isosceles trapezoid. That's when both of the diagonal sides are the same length, and typically they're marked with congruency marks, or they'll be given the same lengths in terms of a number. The last special trapezoid is going to be a right trapezoid, in which we have one pair of parallel sides and we have two 90-degree angles here. So essentially it would be a rectangle with a diagonal cut going through it. That would be a right trapezoid. Now we see this as a family tree of sorts of quadrilaterals. And it's based on the number of parallel sides. So this family tree part here is no pairs of parallel sides. This family tree is one pair of parallel sides, and this is two pairs of parallel sides, right? And whatever property this has gets passed on to the next in line in the family tree. So quadrilaterals have four sides, it goes to parallelograms. Parallelograms have opposite sides are parallel to each other. That gets passed on to rectangles and rhombuses. The rectangle has four right angles that gets passed to the square, and the rhombus has four congruent sides, and that gets passed to the square. Now with this diagram, right, what if we had a question like this? All rectangles are squares. So are all rectangles squares? And we find out that that's going to be false. Okay. Now what happens if we have all squares are rectangles? If we start here and go up, that's going to make it true. Okay. So going down is false, going down the chart is false, going up the chart is true. But now keep in mind, if I said all trapezoids are parallelograms, that's almost like going up, but it's not up the family tree based on parallel sides. So keep in mind the branches are based on the number of parallel sides. So you have to go up that branch for it to be true. If you cross branches, it's automatically false.